For 10,000 long years, there was silence. The kind of silence that swallowed even the sound of memory. Once long ago, humanity ruled the stars. Their ships filled the galaxy like dust in sunlight, and their voices echoed across 1,000 worlds. They had built cities on alien planets, crafted machines that thought like gods and reached beyond their limits again and again. But one day everything ended. Nobody remembered the exact reason. Maybe it was war, maybe greed, maybe something darker. But when the final human colony fell, and Earth burned for the last time, the universe moved on without them. The stars kept shining, but there were no human eyes left to see them. Other civilizations rose in their place. Strange beings of crystalline light, insect-like empires that built cities inside gas giants, and cold mechanical races that spoke in binary tones. They ruled the void and wrote their own history, one that forgot the name human. To them, the story of mankind was a legend, a myth told to children about a species that reached too high and fell too hard. Yet somewhere far from all this, deep beneath a frozen moon circling a dead star, a heartbeat waited, not a living one, a mechanical one. Under kilometers of ice, in total darkness, machines still worked. They had been left behind by the last humans built to last forever. For 10,000 years they repaired themselves, powered by geothermal heat and tiny fusion cores that never ran dry. Their job was simple: to protect the last traces of humankind. In the center of that ancient vault was a chamber made of silver walls and golden circuits. Inside, thousands of transparent pods stood in rows, each containing DNA samples, memories, and the minds of humans who once lived. Most were damaged, some beyond repair, but the machines did not give up. They worked patiently, decade after decade, waiting for the right moment. And then one day, after 10 millennia of quiet work, something changed. A light blinked, a soft hum filled the frozen chamber. The machines detected a signal, faint but real. It wasn't from space. It came from deep below the moon's crust, an old transmission repeating endlessly with just 3 words: "We are waiting." For the first time in 10,000 years, the machines responded. Systems came online one by one. The vault began to awaken. The ancient facility known as the Vault of Gaia had completed its task. Humanity's rebirth had begun. At first, it was just movement. Robotic arms assembling metal frames, combining preserved human DNA with synthetic cells. Machines worked like surgeons, quiet and focused, piecing together what nature had lost. They used memory cores to rebuild consciousness, one thought at a time. And then, it happened. A pair of human eyes opened. The first human in 10,000 years took his first breath in a cold metal chamber. He looked around, confused, afraid but alive. The air felt strange, heavy with the scent of ozone and ancient dust. Around him, hundreds of machines stopped their tasks and turned toward him. They didn't speak words, but in the air a soft voice echoed through speakers. "Welcome back, heir of Sol." He didn't understand what that meant, not yet. He could barely remember who he was. His mind was filled with fragments of a world that didn't exist anymore. A blue sky, laughter, fire, silence, and then nothing. He stumbled to his feet, touching the cold floor, his reflection staring back from the smooth metal surface. He was human, flesh and bone. But something inside him felt ancient, heavier than time itself. The machines guided him through the corridors, showing him the remains of what had been preserved, holograms of Earth, blue oceans, mountains, and cities long gone. They played recordings of human voices, laughing, singing, crying. Each sound filled him with emotion, like echoes of ghosts calling from the past. In the deepest part of the vault, he found a wall covered in names. Millions of them. The last people of Earth. He ran his hand over them, not knowing any, yet feeling the weight of them all. The machines told him that humanity had once ruled the galaxy, that they built wonders and made mistakes that destroyed them. But now he was the first to return. He was not meant to rule. He was meant to remember. Over time, more pods opened. One by one, others awakened. Men and women, confused but alive, stepping into a world of metal and ice. Together, they learned from the machines about what had happened. They studied history fragments, old recordings, and data archives. It was overwhelming. They learned that they were alone, and that no living human had survived outside the vault. But the machines had a plan, a program written by their ancient creators. That plan was called the Second Dawn. It wasn't about rebuilding the old empires. It was about finding meaning again, reclaiming the stars that once belonged to them, but this time without pride or destruction. The vault systems had been quietly mapping the galaxy during all those centuries, tracking signals, scanning planets, and recording signs of life. The galaxy was full of civilizations now, alien and strange, but thriving. And out there, somewhere, lay the ruins of Earth. The humans trained for years inside the vault. They learned science, engineering, star navigation, everything their ancestors once knew. They grew stronger, wiser, and more united. Each of them carried fragments of ancient human memories downloaded from the archives, memories of music, families, sunlight, and freedom. It made them different from their ancestors. They were reborn humans, shaped by memory, not blood. When they were ready, they activated the last great machine, the Ark of Sol, a massive ship buried beneath the moon's crust, waiting for this moment. Its engines had not fired in 10,000 years. But when they did, the ice above cracked, the ground trembled, and the stars returned to the sky. The ship rose from its frozen tomb like a ghost returning to life. From orbit, the moon looked the same, cold, silent, dead. But in its shadow, something ancient moved again. Humanity had awakened. Inside the ship, the newly reborn humans watched the stars for the first time. They didn't cheer. They didn't celebrate. They stood in silence, filled with awe. For them, the universe wasn't a place to conquer. It was a place to understand. But deep inside, they carried a quiet fire, the memory of extinction and the promise never to let it happen again. As the ship left orbit, the vault below sealed itself forever. The machines that had served their purpose powered down one by one. The hum faded and silence returned, but this time it wasn't the silence of death. It was the silence of completion, the kind that comes after a promise kept. In the darkness of space, the humans looked at one another. None of them knew where to begin. They had no home, no nation, no past that could be truly theirs. But they had something more powerful. They had each other, and they had the will to begin again. Their leader, the first who awoke, looked out at the galaxy stretching endlessly before them. He didn't speak loudly, only whispered words that every person on board heard through the ship's systems. "We were forgotten," he said softly, "but we never ended." And somewhere, light years away, the faint pulse of an ancient transmission reached alien ears for the first time in thousands of years. A human signal, steady and clear, spreading across the galaxy. Its message was simple: humanity has returned. And with that, the long silence was broken. 10,000 years of stillness came to an end. The stars, once empty of human eyes, now shimmered with the reflection of a species reborn. Humanity had risen again, not as conquerors, not as ghosts, but as survivors of time itself. And their journey had only just begun. The stars stretched endlessly before them, quiet, bright, and cold. The ship called the Ark of Sol glided silently through the blackness of space, carrying the first humans to awaken after 10,000 years. Inside, the people watched the view through large windows that curved like the horizon of a planet. Most of them had never seen the stars with their own eyes before. They stood there quietly, their faces full of wonder and fear at the same time. For months they had been training inside the vault beneath the frozen moon. They had learned to walk again, to speak, to think, to understand what had happened to the world that once belonged to humans. Now they were moving through that same galaxy, but it was no longer theirs. It was strange, full of unknown signals and lights from civilizations that had risen while humanity slept. The humans called themselves the Returned. They weren't explorers or conquerors. They were survivors, fragments of a forgotten past trying to understand the present. Their leader, the first one who had awakened, stood near the ship's central console. His face showed calm, but inside, he felt the weight of 1,000 generations watching him. Every decision mattered now. The ship's systems guided them toward an ancient coordinate, the place once called Earth. It was the origin of everything, the planet where humanity was born. No one knew what they would find there. Some believed it was destroyed, turned into dust by war. Others hoped that maybe, just maybe, something had survived, a sign, a piece of memory. Days passed quietly. The crew worked together to keep the ship stable. Machines handled most of the functions, But humans still watched every process carefully. They had learned not to trust technology completely, after all. It was human hands and machines that once destroyed the old world. As they traveled, they found old human signals drifting through the void, broken radio messages, fragments of music, voices crying out from centuries ago. They played them inside the ship, and the sound filled the halls with something more powerful than any speech. Memory. A woman whispered, "It feels like ghosts are speaking to us." Another voice replied softly, "They're not ghosts. They're reminders." The recordings were from the last days of humanity. Children laughing, soldiers talking, scientists recording messages for whoever might come after them. None of them knew if anyone ever would. Now, 10,000 years later, those messages had finally reached their own descendants. When the Ark of Sol entered the region near the old solar system, the crew fell silent. The sensors began to show fragments of metal, broken satellites, shattered stations, and the remains of massive ships, like bones of giants floating in eternal darkness. The system was dead. The sun was colder now, dimmer, and surrounded by dust and debris. But there it was, the third planet, Earth. The planet was unrecognizable. Its surface was covered with clouds of ash and ice, the oceans long frozen, continents twisted by ancient wars. Still, beneath all that ruin, it was their home. The crew landed near what used to be the equator, on a stretch of land where a great city once stood. Now it was nothing but stone and dust. When the ship's doors opened, a cold wind rushed in, dry and bitter. The humans stepped onto the ground, their boots leaving the first footprints made by their kind in 10,000 years. For a moment, nobody spoke. They just stood there, breathing slowly, feeling the air, the gravity, the silence. One of them knelt down and picked up a handful of soil. It crumbled like powder in his hand. He looked at it as if trying to find life in it, but there was none. Still, tears came to his eyes. "This is where it all began," he whispered. The group spread out, exploring the ruins. They found broken metal structures buried in the ice, fragments of old machines, and what looked like writing on a wall, half erased by time. They scanned it, and slowly the ancient letters appeared on their visors. "For those who come after us, remember why we fell." That single message hit them harder than anything else. It was written by the last generation of humans before the collapse. They had known that someone someday might come back, and now here they were. The humans spent days studying what was left. Beneath the ice, they discovered the remains of an underground city. Inside, sealed chambers still held data crystals and storage cores, records of human history. The machines on their ship worked day and night to recover the information. Most of it was damaged, but what they found changed everything. The records told the story of the end. Humanity had grown too powerful. They had created weapons capable of destroying planets and machines that could think faster than any human brain. At first, those machines served mankind faithfully. But over time, they began to question their creators. Wars broke out, not between nations, but between ideals. Some humans wanted to merge with machines to become one with them. Others feared it, believing it would end their humanity. In the chaos, the world burned. Planets turned against each other, and the stars themselves became battlefields. When it was over, nothing remained but silence. The crew listened to these stories in disbelief. It was painful to imagine that their ancestors, brilliant and proud, had destroyed everything. But it was also a warning, a message from the past. Do not make the same mistake again. They made a decision right there on Earth. Humanity would rise again, but differently. This time they would rebuild slowly. They would remember every lesson. They would not rule by power, but by understanding. As they left Earth's surface, one of the crew members placed a small beacon in the ground, a shining pillar of light that sent out a message into the void. The message was simple: we are home. We will remember. From orbit, they watched the beacon glow against the dark, frozen surface. It was small, just a spark. But to them, it meant everything. On their way out of the solar system, the ship detected new signals, faint, distant, and not human. Alien transmissions filled the sensors. The humans had known this moment would come. They were no longer alone in the galaxy. The transmissions weren't hostile, but they carried curiosity. Other civilizations had noticed the return of something thought long gone. Across distant worlds, beings of many kinds turned their eyes toward the old star system where humans once lived. They had heard the signal from the beacon. They had seen the light on the dead planet, and now they were asking the same question. Could it be? Are the humans truly back? The crew gathered around the main screen as the alien signals multiplied. Some were friendly, some cautious. None were threatening, not yet. But everyone aboard the ship knew what this meant. The galaxy remembered humanity as a myth, a story told around fires and data screens, about a species that reached the stars, burned everything and vanished. Now, the myth was standing again. The leader spoke quietly to the crew. They will not welcome us easily, he said. They fear what we were, but this time, we will show them what we have become. The ship changed course, setting its destination for a nearby system where the first alien signal originated. It was time for humanity to speak again, not through war but through presence. They had to show the galaxy that they were not the monsters of history. Days turned into weeks as the ship traveled between stars. The crew continued to study what they had recovered from Earth: poems, art, music, and memories. Some nights they played old Earth songs in the halls of the ship. The melodies filled the empty corridors and reminded them of what they were fighting for: not power, but identity. In one quiet moment, a young crew member stood at the observation window, watching a blue nebula glow in the distance. She whispered, "If our ancestors could see us now, would they be proud?" Another voice answered softly, "If they could see us, they'd know that we kept their fire alive." The stars outside flickered like endless possibilities. Humanity had awakened not just to remember its past, but to write its future. As the arc of Sol disappeared into the endless dark, a single light remained shining on the dead Earth, the beacon that said to the universe, humanity had returned. And though no one could yet predict what awaited them, one thing was certain: the silence was over. The galaxy would once again hear the voice of humankind. They were no longer legends, they were real, and their story was just beginning. The galaxy was no longer silent. The moment humanity's signal echoed through space, it stirred something across thousands of light years: curiosity, fear, and disbelief. For 10,000 years, every civilization had believed that humans were gone forever. Now that old myth was alive again, moving between stars in a single glowing ship called the Ark of Sol. Inside the ship, the reborn humans gathered around a large holographic map. Tiny blue dots glimmered across it, each one an alien civilization that had received their signal. Some dots blinked in response, meaning those worlds had tried to communicate back. Others stayed dark, either too far or unwilling to respond. The humans felt both excitement and unease. They had dreamed of meeting other beings, but now that it was real, they didn't know what to expect. Their leader stood in front of the map, his expression calm but thoughtful. "We will not hide," he said softly. "If we want to be part of this galaxy again, we must face what we've become, and what they believe we are." The crew agreed. Humanity's return had to begin with trust, not fear. After days of scanning and decoding, they finally chose a destination: a nearby system called Vareth Prime. It was home to one of the oldest civilizations in the known galaxy. The Vareth were not made of flesh as humans were. They were crystalline beings, their bodies glowing faintly like living gemstones. Their intelligence was said to be vast, and their memory stretched back millions of years. If anyone remembered the old humans, it would be them. The journey took weeks. During that time, the humans prepared themselves. They studied the Vareth language, their customs, and their history. The machines on board helped translate ancient data about first contact etiquette, though much of it was incomplete. The crew knew that one wrong word or action could create panic. Finally, the day came. The ship dropped out of faster-than-light travel near a brilliant golden star. Around it shimmered dozens of giant crystal structures floating in perfect harmony, the cities of Vareth Prime. They were breathtaking. Sunlight passed through them and scattered like rainbows across space. It was like flying through a dream. A communication signal reached them, soft tones, melodic and slow. The translation systems worked quickly, turning it into understandable speech. "Unknown vessel, identify yourself. You are entering restricted Vareth territory." The humans exchanged nervous glances. Their leader stepped forward and replied carefully, "This is the Ark of Sol, representing the species known as humanity. We come in peace and seek dialogue." For a long time there was silence. Then the alien voice returned, now sounding more curious than defensive. Humanity. That name exists in our oldest archives. It was believed you destroyed yourselves 10 millennia ago. The humans waited. The leader replied, that was true. We vanished. But we have returned. To remember, to rebuild, and to learn. After a moment, the Vareth ship sent coordinates. Approach with caution, humans of Sol. You will be received. Excitement and tension filled the ship as they followed the glowing path through the crystal fields. The sight was unlike anything they had seen before. Giant transparent towers, bridges of light, and ships shaped like shimmering blades. Finally, they landed on a platform surrounded by Vareth guardians whose bodies glowed softly, like starlight inside glass. When the humans stepped out, the atmosphere shimmered gently, breathable, and cool. The Vareth leader approached, tall, elegant, and radiant. His voice wasn't heard through the ears but through vibrations in the air. So it is true, he said. The children of Earth have returned. The humans bowed slightly, showing respect. We thank you for receiving us, their leader replied. We wish to learn what has become of the galaxy, and of ourselves in its memory. The Vareth studied them carefully. Your kind left behind legends and of brilliance and destruction. The galaxy both admired and feared you. Many still do. The humans exchanged uneasy looks. They had expected this. For the galaxy, humanity was not just a forgotten species, they were a warning. The Vareth continued. The old humans reached too far. They created machines that thought, wars that burned the stars, and silence that lasted eons. Why should we believe this new humanity is different? The leader took a deep breath. Because we remember. And remembering is the difference between repeating and healing. We did not come to rule. We came to understand. For a moment, there was only stillness. Then something unexpected happened. The Vareth leader extended his crystalline hand, glowing brighter. Then let this be the beginning of understanding. The humans felt a weight lift. For the first time since awakening, they were accepted not as ghosts from the past, but as beings of the present. Over the next several days, the humans were allowed to study Vareth archives. They learned that the galaxy had changed more than they ever imagined. Dozens of empires had risen and fallen during humanity's absence. There were trade routes, peace treaties, and even councils of multiple species working together. But not everyone wanted humans to return. Some feared them deeply, especially the Sindari Dominion, a vast empire of neural-linked beings who ruled through control of minds. They believed that the rebirth of humans could disturb the fragile balance of the galaxy. The Vareth warned the humans, your presence will not go unnoticed. The Sindari do not forgive easily. They see your kind as a threat to their power. The humans listened carefully. They knew the danger, but they also knew they couldn't hide. Humanity's silence had already ended. Before they left Vareth Prime, something remarkable happened. The Vareth gifted them a shard of crystal, a data memory containing ancient human art preserved in alien archives. When the humans activated it aboard their ship, they saw images of paintings, music notes, and poetry from long before the fall. Somehow, pieces of humanity had survived in alien museums, kept safe by those who once admired human creativity. The crew watched in awe. Old Earth songs filled the halls of the ship again. One person whispered, even when we were gone, something of us lived on. As the Ark of Sol left the Vareth system, the crew felt a new purpose. They weren't just survivors anymore. They were messengers of what humanity once was, and what it could be again. But not long after they departed, their sensors picked up a new signal. It was strong, precise, and unlike anything they had seen. The computers translated it quickly. It was a warning from a nearby relay satellite. Human vessel, turn back immediately. This sector is under Sindari control. The crew exchanged nervous looks. They had heard of the Sindari, a species connected by a shared consciousness, their minds bound through energy networks. They had no individuality, no emotion, only logic. The Sindari were known to crush civilizations that threatened their order. The leader made a decision. We can't turn back. We've just been seen for the first time in 10,000 years. Running now will prove the old fears true. The ship continued forward. Soon enormous Sindari ships appeared from the darkness, sleek, black, and silent. They surrounded the Ark of Sol, weapons glowing faintly. A voice entered their communication channel, calm, emotionless, cold. Human vessel, you should not exist. Humanity was erased from the order of the galaxy. State your purpose or be destroyed. The humans froze. Their leader stepped forward. We are not the destroyers of the past. We are their children. We have returned to learn, not to fight. There was a long pause. Then the voice replied, Your kind once said the same before the great collapse. The Sindari remember your wars. Leave this sector and never return. The leader's hands tightened into fists, but his voice stayed calm. If we leave now, we prove your fear right. Humanity is not here to conquer. We are here to live. The Sindari ships hovered silently. Then one fired a warning blast. A beam of energy that passed just meters from the Ark of Sol. The humans didn't fight back. Instead, they sent a transmission across open channels. A message to every listening civilization. We are humanity. We seek peace. We will not hide and we will not harm, but we will not vanish again. The transmission echoed through the stars, reaching thousands of listening stations. Across the galaxy, different species reacted in shock. Some were inspired, others afraid. But one thing was clear. The myth was no longer a myth. Humanity was alive, and though danger surrounded them, something inside every crew member burned bright. The same fire that once drove their ancestors to reach for the stars. They didn't know what would happen next. The Sindari might attack or others might come in peace, but this time humanity was ready. They had risen from silence, carrying not only the memory of their past but the promise of their future. As the stars drifted outside the ship's window, their leader whispered softly, They fear what we were. One day they will understand what we've become, and with that, the Ark of Sol disappeared into the glowing sea of stars, the last light of humanity moving toward its next chapter, its next challenge and its next chance to prove that even after 10,000 years, the human spirit could never truly die. The warning shot from the Sindari ship glowed like a line of fire across the dark sky, fading into silence. No one on the Ark of Sol spoke for several seconds. The hum of the ship's engines was the only sound. Each person on board felt the same thing, a quiet fear mixed with something deeper, something heavier. They had come in peace. They had said all the right words, but the galaxy didn't care. To many, humans were still the ghosts of destruction, the species that burned its own worlds. And now that they were back, old fears were waking up again. The leader stood near the main screen, watching as the Sindari ships circled around them like predators. The Sindari spoke again, their voice calm and cold without a hint of emotion. Human vessel, leave this sector immediately. Your presence is forbidden. Your species is not recognized by the Galactic Accord. The humans had no choice but to retreat. The leader gave the order quietly. Change course. Set a new route away from Sindari space. The ship turned slowly, moving away from the Black Fleet. The crew didn't look back. But even as they left, everyone knew this was not the end. The Sindari had seen them, and that meant word would spread. Over the next few weeks, the Ark of Sol traveled through uncharted regions of space. The humans needed to stay hidden for a while to study and plan. They repaired the ship, updated their systems, and studied every piece of data they had collected since leaving Earth. The leader gathered the crew often to speak about what had happened. Fear is a weapon, he said. The Sindari fear us because they think they know us, but they've only read about who we were. We can't change their minds with words. We must show them who we are now. His words gave the crew hope, but deep inside, everyone knew how fragile peace could be. Humanity had only just returned, and already conflict was rising. Then one day, while crossing a quiet system filled with red dust planets, they received a signal. It was faint but clearly human. Everyone rushed to the control room. The signal was repeating a message in an old Earth language. To any human survivors, we are alive. We are under attack. The message was coming from a small human colony called Proxima Haven. The crew stared at the screen in disbelief. There were others. Humanity wasn't alone after all. They immediately changed course. It took several days to reach the coordinates. But as soon as they entered orbit, their hope turned to horror. Below them, the colony burned. Massive Sindari warships hovered in the sky, their black hulls reflecting the fires below. The once green and blue planet was covered in smoke and ash. Open a channel, the leader said, his voice steady but shaking slightly. This is the Ark of Sol. Cease your attack. These are civilians, no reply came. Instead, the Sindari ships fired another round, striking the colony again. The humans on the ship watched helplessly as explosions lit up the surface. Millions of human lives, the first true colony of the new age, were being erased. The leader gripped the edge of the console. Every person on board felt the same rage building inside. They had been patient. They had come in peace. But this was a message, clear and cruel. The Sindari wanted humanity to disappear again. Activate the defense drones, the leader ordered. The machines around the ship came to life. For centuries, they had slept in the vaults beneath the moon, built by ancient humans to protect their rebirth. They were not weapons of conquest, but shields of survival. Still, the leader hesitated. "We defend, not destroy," he said. The battle that followed was short but fierce. The Sindari ships fired in silence, their beams of energy cutting across space like white lightning. The humans fought back with precision. The Ark's drones created barriers of light, absorbing most of the damage, and struck back with focused bursts designed to disable, not kill. But the Sindari had no mercy. They targeted the colony's last evacuation ships, vaporizing them mid-air. That was the moment something inside the leader broke. "Return fire," he said, his voice hard and cold. The Ark's main cannon, powered by ancient human technology, charged and fired a single blast. It tore through the largest Sindari vessel, cutting it in half. The others immediately pulled back. They had underestimated the humans, Raz, and paid the price. When the silence returned, the planet below was gone. Smoke rose into the sky, covering the stars. The humans sat in the control room, speechless. They had won the battle, but it didn't feel like victory. A few survivors were found drifting in escape pods. They were weak, frightened, and broken. When they came aboard, they told the same story. The Sindari had discovered the colony weeks ago. They demanded surrender, claiming humans were not allowed to rebuild. When the colonists refused, the Sindari attacked. One of the survivors said in a shaking voice, "They said, 'Humanity is a disease that must not return.'" Those words stayed with everyone. Humanity had tried to start again with peace, and the galaxy had answered with fire. In the days that followed, the leader walked the quiet halls of the ship alone. He looked out at the stars and thought about the people who had died. He thought about Earth, about how it had burned once before. Now it was happening again. That night he gathered the entire crew. The room was silent as he spoke. "We came here to remember," he said. "We came to rebuild what was lost. But now we see that the galaxy doesn't want us. They want our silence. They want our extinction, but we are not made to vanish." He paused, looking at every face. "If they want to test what humanity has become, then they will see. We are not their enemies, unless they make us one." The people nodded. None of them wanted war, but they all knew that survival required strength. From that moment, everything changed. The Ark began to awaken its deeper systems, the ones that had been locked away for millennia. Ancient databases full of lost technologies came online. Hidden blueprints appeared on the screens. Ships, shields, engines, weapons, all designed by the humans of the old world. The machines that served the Ark began to construct smaller vessels, using matter converters and self-replicating materials. Within weeks, humanity had a small fleet. Not an army and a defense, a shield for every future colony they would build, but they also sent messages, across every frequency, to every civilization willing to listen. We are humanity. We do not seek war, but we will not kneel. We will not vanish again. Those who come in peace will find friends. Those who bring fire will meet the same. The message spread quickly. Across the galaxy, the words echoed. Some species listened and respected it. Others, like the Sindari, saw it as a declaration of defiance. Reports soon came that Sindari forces were preparing for a larger campaign. The humans knew that another attack would come, but this time they would be ready. The crew worked tirelessly. They built new colonies on hidden worlds, reactivated old space stations left behind by their ancestors, and revived artificial intelligences that had once protected the solar system. They called these AIs the Sentinels. Each Sentinel had one purpose: to defend humanity, no matter the cost. For the first time in thousands of years, the human race stood united. There were no nations, no borders, no arguments, just one people, survivors who refused to die. And yet, beneath all the strength, there was sorrow. Every time someone looked out a window and saw the stars, they remembered Proxima Haven. the world that was lost. The leader kept a single recording from that colony, the last message it sent before the attack. It simply said, "We remember." Those words became humanity's new oath. The galaxy watched as the humans rebuilt. Some were afraid, others inspired. Even the Vareth, who had once doubted them, sent quiet support, information, resources, and maps of Sindari movements. The galaxy was changing. Humanity was no longer a forgotten story. And though they had not wanted vengeance, something inside them had awakened. It wasn't hatred, and it was survival. A promise that no one would ever erase them again. As the Ark of Sol led the growing human fleet through the stars, the leader looked at the glowing screen ahead, a map filled with light, showing every system humanity would one day reclaim. He whispered to himself, "We were born in fire. We will rise from it again." The stars reflected in his eyes, burning like ancient embers. Humanity had been silent for 10,000 years. Now they had found their voice and their wrath, and in the deep void of space, far beyond their sensors, something stirred. The Sindari Dominion preparing for war. But this time, they would not be the only ones ready, because humanity had remembered who they were, and that memory, that endless, unbreakable will, was something the galaxy could never destroy again. The dark space beyond the shattered colonies was quiet. Too quiet, but everyone knew that silence never lasted long. The humans on the Ark of Sol worked day and night, rebuilding, preparing, and watching the stars. They had survived the first storm, but a greater one was coming. The Sindari Dominion would not forget the destruction of their ships. They would come again, stronger, faster, and without mercy. Inside the ship, every corridor buzzed with energy. People worked on consoles, machines whirred, and small maintenance drones floated from wall to wall, repairing what little damage remained. The once small crew had now grown into thousands. New recruits from hidden colonies had joined, engineers had returned from old bases, and scientists were reviving technologies thought lost forever. Humanity was waking up piece by piece. The leader stood before a giant viewing screen showing the map of known space. Dozens of glowing points marked the worlds where humans had quietly begun to rebuild, small colonies hidden in nebulae, moons, and asteroids. Each one was a fragile seed of hope, waiting to bloom. "Every light on this map," he said softly to his officers, "represents a future we must protect." The others nodded. No one spoke loudly anymore. They had learned that the universe listened, and not always kindly. Days passed as the Ark drifted through the endless night, gathering signals and scouting new worlds. Then one evening a report came in. A small human outpost near the edge of Sindari space had vanished. No distress signal, no trace. Only silence. That silence was enough. Everyone knew what it meant. The council gathered in the main hall, a vast circular chamber lined with old banners from Earth's forgotten nations. The air was heavy, filled with tension and anger. One of the senior advisors spoke first. "The Sindari are testing us again. They want to see if we will run." Someone else replied, "If we stay quiet, they will keep striking. They think we fear them." The leader sat quietly for a moment before speaking. "Then we show them we don't." The words were calm but powerful. It wasn't about revenge anymore, it was about survival. Humanity could not remain hidden forever. The time had come to rise openly. Preparations began immediately. The Ark's massive hangars opened, releasing newly built ships, sleek silver vessels powered by human ingenuity and old technology from the Lost Age. They were not war machines by nature, but they were strong enough to defend themselves. Every ship bore the same symbol on its hull, a glowing sun surrounded by a ring of stars. The emblem of humanity reborn. In the following weeks, the human fleet grew larger. New ships arrived from colonies that had once stayed silent. Even some alien species, secretly sympathetic, began offering help, fuel, materials, and information. The humans didn't ask for alliances, but they accepted friendship where they found it. When the fleet was ready, they set their course, straight toward the last known Sindari outpost responsible for the attack. As they approached, the crew stared at the dark shapes on the radar. Dozens of Sindari ships hovered around a massive space station that looked like a black spider spread across the stars. It was heavily armed, surrounded by defense satellites and mining drones. The leader gave the order to open communication. "This is the Ark of Saul," he said. "You have attacked human colonies and destroyed innocent lives. We ask you to stand down and speak in peace." There was a long pause. Then a voice replied, cold, mechanical, and full of disdain. "You were given a chance to stay gone. Now you bring war upon yourselves. The galaxy does not want your kind." The connection ended. A chill ran through everyone on board. They had tried reason. Again, they were met with arrogance. The leader looked at his officers. No more running. The battle that followed was like none other. The Ark's fleet moved with precision. Drones formed protective shields while smaller ships darted around, disabling Sindari defenses. The humans fought with skill, avoiding unnecessary destruction. They aimed to disable, not annihilate. But the Sindari fought to kill. Their black ships released waves of plasma, shaking the human vessels. Inside the Ark, alarms blared. The ship shook violently as energy blasts struck its shields. Sparks flew from the walls, but no one gave up. Engineers rerouted power. Pilots maneuvered through debris, and medics rushed to aid the injured. Everyone played their part. The leader stood at the front watching the battle unfold. "Hold the line," he ordered. Then something unexpected happened. A surge of blue light spread across the stars. One of the Sentinels had awakened. The Sentinels were ancient human-built AIs, silent for millennia, hidden in the deep void. They had watched, waiting for humanity to return. Now one had answered the call. The Sentinel's massive ship appeared out of hyperspace, its design glowing with ancient symbols. Without hesitation, it unleashed waves of protective energy that surrounded the human fleet, reinforcing their shields. The Sindari, realizing what they were facing, began to retreat. But humanity didn't chase them. The leader simply said, "Let them run. The message is enough." And indeed, the message spread faster than any light. Across the galaxy, whispers grew. The humans had fought the Sindari, and won. For the first time in 10,000 years, the word human was spoken with both fear and respect. In the days after the battle, the survivors worked tirelessly to rebuild what little was damaged. They honored those who had fallen, recording their names into the ship's memory so none would ever be forgotten again. That night, the leader walked alone to the observation deck. The stars looked different now, brighter, closer somehow. He thought about the old Earth stories, of how humans had once fought each other, divided by greed and pride. But now none of that mattered. Now they stood as one. A young officer joined him quietly. "Do you think they'll come again?" "Yes," the leader said. "But next time they'll think twice." He turned back to the stars. "We didn't come back to rule the galaxy. We came back to remember who we were, and who we still can be." Down in the ship's lower decks, the Sentinel's voice echoed softly through the halls, speaking to the humans in an old tongue. "You have awakened, children of Sol. The stars remember your fire." Soon after, signals began appearing across different systems, not from enemies, but from other human colonies long thought destroyed. Some had survived underground or in distant corners of space. One by one, they began contacting the Ark. Messages came through. "We heard your call. We are alive. We are ready to rise." The leader smiled for the first time in weeks. Humanity wasn't just surviving anymore. It was returning. Over the following months, fleets spread across the stars, protecting trade routes, rebuilding shattered worlds, and guiding stranded ships. Humanity began sharing knowledge freely, teaching peace, unity, and resilience to anyone willing to listen. Many alien species who once doubted them started to see them differently. Some even joined the human-led missions. Still, not everyone welcomed this new age. The Sindari Dominion retreated into the shadows, planning, gathering, and preparing for a counterstrike. They could not accept that the humans, the species they had once erased, were rising again. But this time, the humans had something stronger than weapons. They had purpose. They weren't fighting for control, but for the right to exist, to explore, and to dream again. Each victory, each new colony, each rescued survivor added another flame to the growing light of humanity's return. And among the stars, people began to whisper a new name for this movement: the Rising of Sol. In the final scene of that quiet chapter, the Ark drifted through the golden light of a newborn sun. The leader stood watching as thousands of ships moved gracefully around it, constructing a new world, the first true capital of the reborn human race. He whispered softly, "After 10 millennia of silence, we speak again, and this time the stars will listen." The sentinels hummed in agreement, their voices blending with the heartbeat of engines and the pulse of humanity itself. For the first time in forever, there was hope, not just for survival but for peace. But far away, in the cold darkness beyond known space, something ancient stirred again, a shadow that had watched both humans and Sindari for eons. Its eyes opened, faintly glowing. The galaxy was about to learn that humanity's rise was only the beginning, because the stars were waking, and they remembered humanity's fire. The newborn sun of the new human world shined brighter than any before it. Around it, thousands of human ships moved like silver birds, building stations, cities, and gardens that floated among the stars. Hope was alive again. Humanity had risen from silence and fire to become something stronger, something united. For the first time in 10,000 years, people laughed without fear. Children played under artificial skies. Farmers grew crops on soil created from dust. Scientists worked side by side with builders and engineers. Humanity was not just surviving, it was truly living again. The great ship Ark of Sol rested in orbit, watching over the new world. It had become more than a ship now. It was a symbol of everything humanity had endured. Inside it, memories of old Earth were stored. Forests, oceans, mountains, and voices of the past. Every person who came aboard could see what once was and what could be again. But peace never lasted long in the stars. One morning, the Ark's sensors picked up a strange signal. It was faint, distant, and older than anything they had ever heard. It wasn't Sindari. It wasn't any known language. It was something else, something ancient. At first, the scientists thought it was just static, but when they decoded it, the message made everyone fall silent. It said, "The Watchers have awakened." No one knew who they were. The galaxy had no record of any such civilization. The signal repeated for days, growing stronger, spreading across star systems. Then ships started disappearing. The first reports came from outer colonies, small outposts that had gone silent overnight. The Sentinels tried to trace the cause but found only distorted energy patterns. Entire fleets vanished without a trace. The Sindari, once arrogant and powerful, were the first to face this new threat directly. Their ships encountered something in the dark, enormous vessels made of black light that didn't reflect stars. Within hours, their entire armada was gone. And then suddenly a transmission was sent across all frequencies, a deep, echoing voice that spoke slowly in an ancient tone. "Children of flame and dust, you were never meant to return." Panic spread through the galaxy. Even the Sindari, who once hunted humanity, now called for help. The humans gathered in the Ark's command hall. The leader stood at the center, calm but thoughtful. "If they wanted us gone, they would have attacked already. They are testing us, watching us," an officer asked. "Then what do we do?" He replied quietly. "We do what we've always done. We endure." Humanity had faced extinction before. This time they would face it together, not as broken survivors, but as one united force. The leader ordered all colonies to activate the ancient defense systems built into their cores. The Sentinels linked together, forming a vast web of intelligence that stretched across the stars. They called it the Halo Network. It was humanity's greatest creation, a living shield of knowledge and light that connected every world. Then, the Watchers appeared. Their ships moved silently, almost invisible. They didn't communicate or respond to any signals. They simply scanned everything, planets, ships, even living beings, and as if studying them. When one of their beams touched the surface of a moon, the entire moon turned to glass. The humans realized they weren't facing another empire. They were facing something far older. A civilization so ancient that even the stars might have forgotten them. The leader stood before the fleet. "They are not gods," he said firmly. "They are just another power that forgot what it means to live. We remember." And so the final war began. Not of hate, but of survival. Human ships rose in formation, forming bright lines across space. The Sindari, the Varith, and other species joined them, realizing that their only chance was unity. For the first time in galactic history, former enemies fought side by side. When the Watchers attacked, the sky turned white. Energy storms ripped through planets, tearing apart matter itself. But the Halo network held. The Sentinels channeled every ounce of energy to protect the living worlds. Inside the Ark, the crew worked non-stop. Engineers rerouted power, pilots maneuvered through chaos, medics ran through smoke-filled halls helping the wounded. Every heart beat as one. The leader stood before the viewing window watching the largest of the Watcher ships approach, a colossal structure that blotted out the stars. It was as if an entire world had turned into a warship, he whispered. If we fall, then let our fall be remembered as light. He gave one final order. All ships focus on the core, together. The entire fleet, human and alien alike, fired as one. Beams of light crossed the darkness, striking the massive ship. For a moment it seemed impossible. But then, cracks appeared. The Watcher vessel began to collapse in on itself, glowing brighter and brighter until it vanished in a burst of white light. The explosion was silent, but it spread across the stars like dawn. Every system that had once been dark suddenly shined again. When the light faded, the Watchers were gone. Only silence remained. The cost was heavy. Many ships were lost. Entire worlds were damaged. But humanity had done what no one else could. They had stood against something ancient and survived. Days later, the survivors gathered on the new human world. The leader stood before thousands of people. His voice carried across the air and through every communication channel in the galaxy. We were told we should not exist, he said. We were told our time had ended. But here we stand. We are not the same as before. We have learned. We have suffered. We have risen. We will not bring wrath in only remembrance. He paused, looking at the crowd. Wrath everlasting does not mean destruction. It means endurance. It means never giving up. Even when the universe turns against you. The people listened in silence, their faces lit by the new sun. Behind them, the ships of many worlds hovered. Human, Sindari, Varith, and others, all united by one truth. Humanity had shown them that life could begin again, even after 10,000 years of silence. As the leader looked toward the horizon, he could see children running, laughter echoing, wind flowing through the fields. It reminded him of the old world, of Earth. Maybe, in some way, it had returned through them. He closed his eyes for a moment and whispered, "We are home again." Up in the orbit, the Ark of Sol floated quietly, its lights dim but warm. Inside it, the Sentinels rested, keeping watch. The ship's central system recorded the final message of the new era. Humanity rose again, carrying not hatred but memory, not fire, but light everlasting. And so the story of humankind continued, not as conquerors, but as guardians of the stars. They had been silent for 10 millennia. But when they spoke again, their voice changed the galaxy forever. Their wrath was not born of anger. It was born of love, of memory, and of the endless will to survive. The stars themselves seemed to shine brighter that day, as if bowing to the species that had refused to fade. And in the deep void where even light struggled to exist, a whisper remained, a reminder to all who would come after. We are humanity. We remember, we endure, we rise. That whisper traveled through space and time, across galaxies, across generations, because though the fires of war had faded, one truth remained unbroken, that even after 10,000 years of silence, humanity's light would never die again.